on, Steeler fans? Welcome to Behind the Steel Curtains, the burning question, the Steelers' burning question, as we take that one inquiry going into the game with the Seattle Seahawks in week 2 and decide what is most pressing for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into this week. Hello, fans. Once again, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis. You could call me Bad, and I am filling in this week for Jeff Hartman. Dave Schofield did it last week. In fact, you're going to see more of us on the burning question as we rotate through this. So we'll have fun today. We'll get this going. So the Pittsburgh Steelers had a really rough week last week. Starting out the season, not the way we wanted to. 33-3 loss, which ironically enough, I picked that 33 score. I just kind of thought the Steelers on the other end would have a lot closer to 30. But with that being said, got to get a win. And Thomas White brings it up right away. He's like, yep, that's the burning question. That's the answer right there. He's like, getting a win. I get it. We definitely have to get a win, but how's that going to be achieved? And for me, that's one of the big burning question for me. And we're going to bring that up next. But as far as the live chat, definitely want to hear from you. I will go ahead and answer questions towards the end of the show. So we'll go ahead and do that. So feel free to go ahead. And if you have a question, if you have a super chat question where you throw money into the pot, into what we call it the tip jar, but that tip jar is to go ahead and have contests like the David DeCastro football contest we have going on right now. So there's plenty of good things that goes to, but I will answer that a little later on. But the question this week is, who are we really relying on here for the product on the field? Is it more the coaches or is it the players? So William Mallory mentions that it was a bad week, and we go BAD. I think that's a shout out to my initials. I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, it's hopefully we could have good bad this week. That's what we're hoping for. So if you're looking at it now, reading all the comments, and we as Steeler Nation were pretty upset about what occurred in New England last week. And, you could go two ways on this. You could blame the game plan, which I was doing a little more of, or you could blame the performance on the field. And there could be plenty of reasons why that performance was precipitated that way. We had drops by Dante Moncrief, and I know Dante has been the whipping post in the last week. Apparently, he had a broken digit on one of his hands, or a sprain, or something that he was trying to overcome. But Ben went to him 10 times. He only caught 3 balls, so that's a player issue there. But was it the play calling? Ryan Kellerman brings that up, and he really thinks it was the play calling, and so he's calling out Randy Fichtner on that, which I thought the offensive game plan was definitely unimaginative. So we need to take this a step further, though. Who are we putting the onus on here? But what needs to be done, and what avenue needs to be fixed even more to go ahead and go forward against Seattle? Now, Seattle is typically a rough team in the early goings. When I say a rough team, they don't do very well, especially on the East Coast in the early goings. Jeff and Lance on the show the other night, I believe it was Wednesday night, had an insider from Seattle come in and say just that they don't really get it going, especially traveling in the early goings. So that could be very well. Dave Schofield brought up a great stat the other night on the Steelers preview. And the total points scored last week in the last 2 games, the 2 home games against Seattle in 2007 and 2000, I believe it was 2011. Those last 2 games, they scored 0 points. whatsoever. So, Cree, one of the great commenters on our show, thinks it was both. Play calling was poor, but execution was even worse. So, what do we really need to do on this? Nico Suave, which is a fantastic name, by the way. I absolutely love that. I would love to hear how that came about. He thinks it was a combination of both for sure. Definitely, that's what Nico says. Thomas White thinks Moncrief should be scaled back until he proves himself. We can't survive a Boswell type disappointment at wide receiver. Well, the good thing about the wide receiver position is you have 5 guys, 6 guys that could go ahead and assume that role. What we really need is someone to take the onus off of Juju. Now, Juju had 6 catches for 78 yards, but a lot of people did not feel he was getting separation. Is it on Juju as well? Or are we basically saying it's on the whole 53? So my question to you then is, let's go ahead and ask another burning question. What was the bright spot? What bright spots could we find going into the Seattle game? I would definitely say if he's 100% healthy, I think TJ Watt would be definitely a bright spot. You know what? He got some pressure in there. They were double teaming him like no gut in there. He had one opportunity to absolutely maul Brady, and he got this ugly ball off that I don't know whether it was tipped or just a lob, a desperation that was still completed. That's the kind of that was the story of the game. That's where everything was going. Who do we need to get involved more too? That's another question. Mike, my answer to that, and I'll just go ahead and every show I try to wear a different jersey, so I'm gonna pan down here. I think this number right here, the Vanimal, we got to get number 89 going, and that's just getting him the ball. Sure, he did not have a great preseason, but they actually, wow, that's my actual name. Oh, okay, wait. I know I get sidetracked here, but Nico Suave. That's my actual name. Bad. Laugh out loud. I love the song Rico Suave too, though. That's great. And if you don't know the song Rico Suave, it was a 1990 hit by Gerardo. Actually, 1991 hit called Rico Suave. It's very catchy. Check it out on iTunes or wherever you pirate your music or do whatever you do. If there's a jukebox around too. The Daredevil, I don't think that's his real name. But great tattoo, Daredevil. I like that. Washington needs to take advantage of Seattle's secondary. That's you remember a time that we couldn't really take advantage of the Seattle secondary because it was so good, but it's a different day and age in the Emerald City now with that secondary. Definitely Washington could really take the top off of that team. He is a deep threat. Moncrief could actually be a deep threat too. I just would like to see, I think the quick fix there is give Washington more opportunities. He had 50% of the opportunities compared to 90% of the plays. 90% of the plays that Washington had. So maybe we flip that around. Look, Moncrief had a horrible game, but they're not going to go away from him. And let's give him another chance to go ahead and get back in there. Thomas White thinks the defense actually looked good. The team is definitely not weak. Steelers went from 20-1 to 30-1 to win the Super Bowl. Hey, that's not horrible odds. Yeah, getting bent with Bo agrees with me. Remember when you couldn't take advantage of our secondary. But getting back to what I said, who do we need to go ahead and rely on? Who are the bright spots? I thought in the fourth quarter, Vance McDonald looked pretty good, but they didn't dial up his number until the fourth quarter. That's a guy that I definitely really feel that they need to get involved more because that guy could take the onus off of Juju Smith-Schuster as well. Juju is a number one wide receiver. We've thought that throughout the preseason. We've thought that since Mr. Third and Fifth left town. We thought all those things. But now, after one game, we're saying he's no longer a number one wide receiver. Now we're saying Mike Monchek's gone and the line's not as good. We're looking for so many scapegoats here. Look, I am ready to go ahead and let's put that game behind us. Look, Dennis Sheridan, good. That's a good point. Vance was blanketed by Chung the entire game. So that's a reason being, but we need to go ahead and try to get him open. So that's definitely will be on the game plan. Another thing, Ryan O'Toole can't get pushed on 10-yard arcs against Seattle. Yeah, that was the guy we were really excited about coming into the season, and reverted back to what we've seen a lot in the last 5 years. GW Lilly, I mean, look, I'm not going to discount this. I mean, that's not my stance, but a lot of people want a new head coach. So original burning question then, is it coaching that is more paramount to the product that we see on the field, or is it the execution? Is it actually the players? So keep on chiming in on that. Need to get number 30 involved. Ryan Kellerman says that. Kriekis says Chung should have been in jail as well. Laugh out loud. Yeah, probably should have, but yeah, I can't even comment on that. That's that's talk about a throwback to the 80s. He was like, what did he get busted for cocaine or something? Gosh, I expect Tubbs and Crockett to come looking for him when they go down into Miami coming up this weekend. Gosh, Miami Vice reference, had to do it. I'm an 80s guy. Yeah, look, execution is a big thing. Coaching, sure, you're going to get a big loss like this. We're going to go straight to the head coach. Look, I've been accused of being a Mike Tomlin homer, and I have no problem with that. And then here we go. If you're listening to this and you're not on YouTube, you can't see these comments. So Getting Bent with Bo mentions that cocaine is a hell of a drug. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is a Dave Chappelle reference. I hope I'm right with that. And Jared Devil, I'm just going to put that up for a second, accusing Robert Kraft of paying off judges with Asian workers. So Ryan Kellerman brings up something here, and if Tomlin gets fired, he will get so many offers immediately, and that's the thing. I mean, we see these graphics. Besides Bill Belichick, you have the best winning percentage over the last few years. You know, over his entire career. Is next is Mike Tomlin. I mean, we forget the fact that now this could open up, an entire avalanche of a debate on Mike Tomlin. But remember, he's never officially had a losing season. 8-8 is not a losing season. So we haven't seen that from him. And we tend to, in everything, wax poetically about the guy that was here before. And I remember a time, if we go back 20 years ago in 99, everybody wanted Mike Tomlin's head. There was 3 years Bill Cowher's head. There were 3 years in a row where, that's they did not make the playoffs. Nico mentions Tomlin just needs to learn how to finish in big games. They just never got started. The thing that if I'm going to go ahead, and now Carlton Curry says this, and Jared Devil, I've brought up the wrong one. I want to bring up Carlton Curry, still underachieving, giving the talent that we had. Yeah, a lot of talent there. But if you look at a team like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, when he was there, Andy Reid, there's a guy too, and no one's really calling for his head right now too. But if you have a few more seasons of the Chiefs not winning the Super Bowl at all, I mean, you can say the same thing about him. So, you know, there's some different things to look at. My question is, who's sitting on the couch right now, or who's in college that you really want to trust with this team, and are they going to get better results? So it's very easy to go ahead and say that, as you see my daughter making herself known in the background there. Okay, I'm doing a show. Okay, that's not what we all wanted to see. Please excuse me for that. Um, but with that being said, there's so many ways to look at it. I want to evoke one of my favorite songs of all time. If we go back to like 1989, it's Cinderella. I'm a glam rocking type of guy, and it's "You Don't Know What You Got Until It's Gone," and that's basically what I'm trying to say. I really feel that we could be asking for it, and it could be a whole lot worse. One of the players that they're talking about that could help turn it around is a guy that's not even here, and I'm gonna bring up Jared Devil here. Everyone wants Minka Fitzpatrick. Hey, if that could happen, that would just that would be absolutely amazing. Um, gosh, wow. I think bringing in a guy like Minka would be fantastic with a safety that could play the slot corner. They're on a list of teams that have inquired about it. I would love for them to go ahead and really look at that, because the safety position is kind of one of your weak links right now. I'm going to go ahead and bring up this right now. Getting bent with Bo. You were 9-02, Jared Devil. I was 20, LOL. Then there's the others like me who, if we're talking, gosh, what were we talking? 02? I was 31. So there you go. But that boy Devin says, pull the trigger, Colbert, on Minka Fitzpatrick. Hey, get aggressive, because you could lose a guy like Sean Davis next year, and you're standing alone with a guy like Terrell Edmonds. So Kevin Shin mentions it would cost at least a second round pick with a backup offensive lineman. I'm willing to do that. And the thing about Minka Fitzpatrick there, I mean, he's a class guy. He's a good player. Dave Schofield brought up, he's our stats guy, and deputy editor here at Behind the Stokes Curtain. He came up with what I thought was fantastic. He looked at the numbers and looked at what would be a really good offer would be a 2 and a 4 to one of those, this jockeying that's going on right now with a lot of trades, and you actually saw it in the trade for Devin Bush, getting a player back, not a player back, but getting a spot back. And we actually saw that with the Ryan Switzer deal. So he was saying the Steelers would get a third back. So the Steelers get their third round pick back for next year, and then they would go ahead and give away a second and a fourth, and throw in the perceived number 3 that you're going to be getting with Le'Veon Bell, which is basically a fourth. Then you're without a second round pick, and I would go ahead and do that anytime. Do whatever you can to get aggressive, and they've been showing that they're not afraid to get aggressive there. So I think that would be awesome. I would go ahead and do something like that. But you know what? These players are the safety position. Yeah, you had a guy that played in the AAF last year. Dennis Sheridan brings up this. I'm going to bring that up after I finish my thought. You have a guy that played in the AAF last year and got exposed, but I still think Cam Kelly could be a decent player. But we want to have Sean Davis in there. We want to have Terrell Edmonds in there more. But bringing a guy like Minka would be really good. Now, Dennis brings this comment up. We have no cap space to even hire a babysitter. Yeah, that's my babysitter's not cheap here, and gosh, she's in ninth grade. So I really don't even know if I want the girl down the street playing safety, but I do. Yeah, a little levity is needed. But here's the thing. No, there is cap space that could be moved around for next year, especially with the Tuitt contract, and I know Hayden really didn't cost way too much. I think he only cost about $5 against the cap this year. Then you have Antonio Brown's numbers going off next year, so there is going to be there's definitely going to be some room to go ahead and do that. And as Getting Bent with Bo says, it wouldn't be that low of a cap hit. They could make it happen. That's what you have, the best capologist in the game. You have one of the best money guys in the game that people don't even realize, and that's Omar Khan, who is still here, who could be a general manager of the Rams right now. He did not take that position when it was offered to him. So actually, I think he is probably the next general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers, with Colbert being only year to year. But there are definitely possibilities, and he is right now on his rookie year with a 5th-year option, and that's brought up by that boy Devin. Love the name. I'd love to know. You know what? I would love to just do a show one time. Now that we're seeing all these names up here that are always on the live chat, I would love to go ahead and know the reason for some of these names. I think the names are really intriguing. We found out that Nico Suave is actually a real name, and I think that's fantastic. In fact, I'd like to change my name to Nico Suave, but I'm not looking for women right now. But back in the 90s, I would have used that like crazy. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead, open up the live chat to questions. We really didn't come up with an answer to the burning question. If you want my opinion on the burning question, it's like, look, players need to execute, and that's definite. We know that. I did not like the game plan. I'm not in the fire Tomlin category right now. I'm in the go ahead and take a look at the coordinator's position first. I'm really not happy with the defensive coordinator. I haven't been for years. And for this is now the second season of Randy Fichtner being the offensive coordinator. But then you ask me, and I'm like, well, is he the offensive coordinator? Is it Ben Roethlisberger? Is Randy Fichtner Ben Roethlisberger's puppet? That's why he was hired. I mean, they didn't even look at anybody. They just said he's the next guy in, and that's exactly what happened. Shut down. By the way, that's a great name. I'm going to bring this up. I think the offense just needs to be more aggressive. Washington can run every route, and his body frame is big. He can break a lot of tackles. He dominated in preseason and is now just put on the shelf. So, yeah, then that's a coaching issue because you're not bringing it in. That boy Devin brings this up as a key to this weekend. We need to contain Russell Wilson, not let him get out of the pocket. So you kind of got to so that's where you got to watch. Now, on defense, if you're going to go ahead and get aggressive, which you definitely want to be aggressive, but when you're too aggressive with a guy like Russell Wilson, he's going to do exactly what that boy Devin just said, and he's going to go ahead and he's going to kill you by getting free and kill you with his legs. So you want to be really careful on that as well. So with that being said, my answer, and this was something that we brought up the other night on the preview with Jeff Hartman and Dave Schofield and myself, what we brought up was the fact that you kind of need to shadow him with a guy like Barron or Bush, and probably Bush with his sideline to sideline speed. He might be the kind of guy that you want to have shadowing him, and that would be really good. And also, getting bent with Bo brings this up, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up here as well. Look, I don't need to see Metcalf getting 30 to 40 yards gaining on us. That's a guy, everyone's talking about Lockett. Lockett was on the injury report. I don't know where he is as of today. But that's a guy you got to watch. Metcalf is a dangerous rookie, and he got free last week against Cincinnati. He could really do well. Everybody's agreeing on Darren Dalton getting bent with Bo. They agree that putting Bush in as a QB spy could equal Russell Wilson shutdown. It's probably where we need to go. And, I'm not as big as an X's and O's guy, but I was kind of proud I came up with that the other day. And that's probably what they need to do. And somebody asked, is this a bounce back week? And that was one of the questions I did ask. I did ask for questions, and then DemXN plays YT, who doesn't love his name. He said it, not me. I'd love to know the story behind it. It's actually pretty cool. Do you think Bud Dupree is going to have a good game? Bud Dupree needs to have a good game. Against this offensive line, he probably could. But that's something that he really needs to capitalize on what he did in the preseason, or was that just against too many scrubs? So I really think that he needs to go out and get it. Dennis Sheridan brings out, we better look out for Clowney too. Yeah. Jadeveon Clowney looked like every bit of a monster last week. He is pretty tough. As far as everything else, Cree doesn't think Bud Dupree is going to have a good game. I think Bud Dupree, what I saw of him in the preseason, I liked a whole lot better. And that's actually the jersey I almost wore for the show, but I went with Vanimal. I just thought that he wasn't getting blown out 10 yards past the quarterback again. He wasn't overrunning the quarterback. He just didn't have opportunities last week. He was just getting shut down. So with that being said, that's really what we need to look at. Here's another question. Haven't completely read it. But should have had a good game last week, but didn't. Yeah, it really did, and he did get shut down. I lost the question. Here we go. I'll read this one here. Go DRXP. How do we go toward if the Steelers lose? What is the message of the team? Will Tomlin, if we get blown out, which I don't think we will? Yeah. So this is the thing, and William Mallory says it better be a bounce back week. This is the thing. And I've been adamant that you just can't shut the door after one loss because there's 15 more games. If you go 0-2, especially if you get blown out, then it's not as much tweaking as really having to, take stock in what you have and what's going on. Because at that point, you've got a major problem, especially when you lose to a team like Seattle, who Seattle struggled with Cincinnati last week at home, and they're almost an unbeatable team at home usually against a team that is not as good as the Steelers. So the Steelers really need to bounce back. They need it for so many reasons, but with that being said, I would almost think that if they don't goal drop, then it's going to be a problem. So we really, at that point, let's hope we don't have to answer that burning question, but that could actually be the name of the burning question next week. If that happens, where do you go from there? We've seen in the past where you don't burn it down after an 0-2 start. But that's just definitely not in a position you want to be in. Big H asks if we are really looking to pick up this guy from Miami. They've inquired, from what I understand. Anytime a guy comes on the market or is said to be looking for a trade, they always list about maybe 6 to 8 teams that should inquire, and in some situations, teams that are going to inquire too, that they project to, and they are one of those teams right now. So, and they definitely have a need. Well, I mean, but a lot of it is like, picking up the phone. Hey, what are you looking for this guy? Okay, you're too rich for my blood. All right, at least I called. So you just don't know exactly where we went. A key to a game, my buddy Cree, we have to run Connor. Yes. I agree. He has to. That has to be done to go ahead and set up the pass. So, here's a question. George Teston, I read half of it. Did anyone have a good game last week besides Boswell? You know, I thought James Washington had a good week, but he wasn't implemented into it as much as he should have. So that's on Ben. That's on the coaches. There was a point where they went to Juju had an okay week, but there was a point where he was wide open, and when Ben was throwing into the end zone, and didn't go to Juju as well. TJ Watt had a very good game, I thought, as far as that went. There were some bright spots. But William Mallory says this, and this is what I've been thinking all along. We're going to find out a lot about our team this week. And all you need to know is tomorrow, let's see, 25 hours from now, we're going to know if they're showing up. And 28 hours from now, we're going to know for sure what we have going on. Thomas White says, is missing Rosie going to limit the running game? I don't think, because there's a lot of times that they don't put Rosie in there, Roosevelt Nix. You definitely want to have him in there, but they run a lot of sets without him. But I think they're going to go ahead and look to go ahead and do double back sets with Jalen, who is an H-back, a tight end. He could probably help out in that role. So, that's a possibility. Here's another question that I kind of just sort of answered. What do you think about split back packages with Connor and Samuels? Double screens should work in our favor. That's innovation that I'd like to see them use. But getting back to what we were saying about Rosie Nix, Michael Laney says this. We need to use Benny now to block while Nix is out. Hey, he's a big burly back that could go ahead and do that too. Holton was sent deep instead of Washington, but that's not the play I was talking about, Ryan. Holton was sent on the 3-1, and I actually had a problem with that because we were talking about being imaginative and trying to fool the Patriots and not doing the same things that you've done in the past. And they did that in the very first series in the 2016 AFC Championship game after that season. And on 3rd and 1, they went deep to Sammy Coates, and they just seemed to be doing the same things, and you can't be doing the same things. So that's why I'm putting a lot of the burning question on the coaching staff, mostly the coordinators, Fietner / Roethlisberger, and also Butler. So Snell was great in special teams in the preseason, says Gold Drop. I definitely think so. Everybody agrees on the 2-back sets, and just a fan wants balance. And I completely agree with that. Also need balance when we do throw the ball. Washington, Johnson, McDonald, and Juju together with our running game are a formidable weapon for success. I agree, and that's why I wore the 89 today. And this is not a Matt Spaeth jersey. It is definitely a McDonald jersey. King Hutchinson, do you feel the offensive line is the same? Yeah. The key is having Pouncey in there. He hasn't been practicing, so I'm not sure whether he is going to get a hat tomorrow. That might have changed and something I may have missed, but Pouncey's a definite key. Look, Sean Surratt has been there for 7 years with Mike Munchak. He knows this line. You have a veteran line. You have a tough line. That they should not be dropping back because the schemes haven't changed with him gone. And these are guys that have been doing it under him and they can continue to do it. Ryan Kellerman wants to put Big Dan McCullers as a fullback like the fridge. That would be hilarious. And Darren Dalton, I would love this. I'm going to bring this up. I hope. And he has a strong feeling that Deontay Johnson can be spectacular in screenplays. Deontay Johnson's a guy you need to find a way to get in there. Dennis Sheridan saying Pouncey will play. Good. I just wanted to make sure. JJ Hernandez said, I told you the Steelers are only going to win 4 games last time. I said that he brought that. I said that you guys booting me off. I never booted you off, JJ. I have no problem with your opinion. He thinks the Steelers are going to get destroyed again with Seattle, and he's a Steeler fan. And hey, I know. Look, I pick against the Steelers, JJ. I get it, and so I understand. We can choose to worry about those things, and that's valid. I have a buddy that's been coming to my house every day, every game for the last 11 years, and he is a very pessimistic fan, and that doesn't mean that he doesn't love the team. He's just that's where he's looking at it, and I'm a very optimistic fan, and so with that being said, that's you're entitled to that opinion, and I respect it. I'm not booting you off, but the only way I'm booting you off is if you're just divisive to another commenter or one of the hosts. If you're saying if you're being completely rotten, but hey, and I'm not accusing you of being a pessimist. I'm just like if you're believing that it's not looking better, hey, that's valid. I have no problem with that. So just keep on going with that too. I mean, I'm fine. And he considers himself a true Steelers fan. He just sees weaknesses. A lot of us, gosh, you should have seen if you weren't on the post game. We had about 450 commenters. I wasn't even on that show, but everyone was upset after that New England game, and it was a really rough game. And but for me, I'm one of those guys. Cree brings this up. That's Lance too. Laugh out loud. And yeah, I mean, we all have different roles, and we all have different feelings on it, and we look at things different. I mean, in my household, my wife's one that worries, and I'm the rose-colored glasses guy. I'm the guy that says, "Oh no, it's gonna be great if we just do this and do this." I'm just the optimist. We balance each other out. But as far as everything goes, JJ, do you live in Seattle? That's really cool. But no, you're not getting booted out, buddy. Like I said, unless you're saying ridiculously horrible things to people, and you're not, so don't worry about it. But anyways, but with that being said, it's a new day tomorrow, and that's what we're going to have to hope for. We're going to have to hope that they can go ahead and overcome this. And I got to believe they've been working all week long to go ahead and overcome this. You might see a completely different team. And and we've seen that in the past. We've New England's a kryptonite team for these guys. The Steelers are typically a kryptonite team for the Chiefs. I know it wasn't last year, but they really do that. You just got to believe that they're going to come in with pride, ready to do their business and go ahead and win this game. So that's what I'm hoping for. We're going to have a lot of these questions answered tomorrow. And they just need to come out strong. And I think we're looking at it that way. So with that being said, thank you everybody for your questions. Thanks. I love the spirit here. Remember, we're a community of Steeler fans, and we're in this together. I appreciate all of you. Remember, behind the steel curtain for all of your Pittsburgh Steeler needs. Look, we've got all of the articles to preview the game. We have commentary. We have fun stuff. We have Tony and I arguing it out in point counterpoint now. We have a lot of things going on. So everything you need Pittsburgh Steelers, BTSC, a part of SB Nation, is something you need to check out all the time. We have about 7 podcasts going a week. That's you're going to hear it all here. And as we go, it keeps on growing. And as it grows, we keep on bringing in names and more insight. We had Max Starks on 2 weeks ago. We had a gentleman from Seattle that Lance and Jeff had on the show, an insider for the Seahawks. So there's lots of things going on. We're glad to have you guys. I hope we're celebrating tomorrow. Just let's just keep the faith on this. And that's the burning question. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you later.